Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am GeneralLotz, and it is November. It's almost Christmas time, and I myself am a very big fan of the old Christ Mass, with all the various lights and presents and all the rest. And it should prove to be a very good Christmas this year. So, for November, I had to cancel TIE Fighter because Knights of the Old Republic is a long beauty game. And, I've already started working on it this month, and I still have not even come close to actually finishing it. So, yeah, it's going to take me a while to get all the gameplay footage, and I needed an extra month to hopefully get all the gameplay footage I need for the review in December. And that's going to be the last video of Star Wars Year. But that's not going to be the last Star Wars game that I review, because I do intend to review Jedi Fallen Order. I picked it up last week, and I gotta say, EA did a pretty good job. I don't know how I can say that, but yeah, EA actually did a good job by ripping off From Software and a bunch of other games as well. Jedi Fallen Order is more or less Star Wars but Dark Souls, or Star Wars Souls, or Dark Souls with a Star Wars skin, because it is very much like Dark Souls in terms of gameplay. It even has that Dark Souls difficulty. There's a mini-boss that is on the very first planet, and it's kicking my ass. I still haven't beaten it yet, as of this video. But I am enjoying it immensely. It is a very, very good game. The story isn't that bad either. In fact, it's kind of canon. Kind of. I can see that fitting into the EU to a degree. Now, the whole, the the one Jedi, Cal, whatever the hell his name is somehow able to reform the Jedi Order. Yeah, that's not happening. Or if it did, it didn't last very long because we never saw or heard from it again. Yeah, but you get the idea. I'm just enjoying it. The story is actually engaging. I find it interesting that there's Night Sisters in this. I'm very surprised that they brought that in. It seems like I know that Disney dislikes the EU, but that's all they've got. I know Kathleen Kennedy said, there's no novels or comics. Yeah. But I can only imagine that Disney's going to start pulling from that as much as they can after the failure of, the Shit Wars trilogy that they came out with. I know people still like Force Awakens. I will be watching that along with the other Shit Wars movies next year. But I can tell you it's already going to be crap just from everything I've read. I get that there's pretty pictures, but that's just not good enough for me. I mean, the idea that Han Solo would name his one son Ben is just idiotic at best. So, yeah, we'll see what Star Wars does now that it's actually getting good again. Now that they're actually moving back towards the EU after going woke. The Mandalorian, I've already put out one video on it. I've got 2 videos in the queue that will go up next week on episodes 2 and 3. I gotta say, I fully expected to hate that particular show, but surprise, surprise, it's actually really, really bloody good. I have been enjoying all 3. I enjoyed all 3 episodes without reservation. It's just so surprising to me how much EU stuff is in that show. And I have not mentioned it in any of the little podcast-style reviews, but I will say this, though. I'm glad his blaster rifle looks like the one that Boba Fett had in the Star Wars Holiday Special, because while Star Wars The Holiday Special is as bad as you've heard, because I've actually sat through it, and I do not recommend watching it because it's more dull than it is anything else, the Boba Fett part wasn't bad. Now, speaking of animated Star Wars features, there is an animated adaptation of Dark Empire being produced by one of the Star Wars fans. I will actually link that in the description. I will find that and link it there for you. It's actually surprisingly well animated. It looks pretty good. The voice acting is lifted directly from the Dark Empire audio drama. There we go. The Dark Empire audio drama, which is actually pretty good. I recently listened to that, and Dark Empire 2 and Dark Empire 3. All 3 were absolutely excellent. And one thing that's kind of interesting is Cam Solisar is actually voiced by the same guy who did Trask Ulgo in Knights of the Old Republic 1. It was like, oh my god, he had work before that. So yeah. That's a really nice little animated show. Now, there also is a 3D adaptation of Heir to the Empire being done as well. I don't know if either one of those projects will actually be finished, but it's really cool to see, and I will link both in the description. On the subject of Dark Souls, I finally finished Dark Souls 2 again since I first beat it way back in 2014. That's a long time ago. I think it's like 6 years. I actually like it a lot more this time around, after all this time, than I did when I first played it. When I first played it, yeah, the hitboxes were bad, and they still are, and we'll get to that in a moment, but Dark Souls 2 is actually just pretty good. I mean, the boss design is pretty good. I really like Medulla, or however you pronounce that. I really like that little hub right there, and I like how the little NPC vendors, actually, you rescue them and they go there, and so it's kind of like you form a little undead community. I really like that. I like the more personal nature of the story, and I like how when it's at the end, it's really up in the air as to what you, the player, are going to do once you ascend to being the undead monarch. Whereas in Dark Souls 1, it's like you can either burn in the flame forever or usher in the dark, and now we know that the dark is really, really bad. I really do like the final boss design. Queen Nishadra, or however you pronounce that. She looks really, really cool. I think it looks very 40K in that regard. So I think Dark Souls 2 just gets a bad rap. I mean, it's very hard to follow a game like Dark Souls, and I think everyone expected Dark Souls 2 to be more like Dark Souls 1. I certainly did, and when it wasn't, it was very easy to get mad at that. But, playing it with the remove of like 6 years, I can definitely see that it's a lot better than I thought it was back then. Now, it still has a lot of the same problems, the fact that you lose a lot of health when you die multiple times. I mean, there is a ring you can get that'll fix that, but I still think that's kind of annoying. You drink way too slowly from the Estus swig. But overall, Dark Souls 2 is pretty good. I mean, I think I still stand by the fact that it is probably the weakest in the Dark Souls franchise, but still, Dark Souls is so good that, well, the weakest one is still amazing. So, if you haven't played Dark Souls 2, if you only played like the third game or the second or the first game, or if you've only played Sekiro or something, give Dark Souls 2 a try. Don't just ignore it because it's the second game in the franchise. Also, it's kind of funny. I bought it back in 2014, and I never bought Scholar of the First Sin. So, re-downloading it now, it's got some Scholar of the First Sin files in it. Now, it's still the original Dark Souls 2. I would not want to play Scholar of the First Sin, at least from what I've read. I think that makes Dark Souls 2 less fun and more annoying, but with the original initial release, it's still good. But the funny thing is, I've got some Scholar of the First Sin files. When I see the credits now, instead of just Dark Souls 2, we've got Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. It's just kind of funny how that works. Let's see. Kind of went on a whole tangent there. So yeah, the last review of this year is going to be Knights of the Old Republic. I'm going to stream Far Cry 1 one more time, which is going to be the Friday of the week that this video goes up. But I am not going to continue with Far Cry until after I've streamed at least twice Jedi Fallen Order, because I want to talk about that on a live stream, because it really is surprisingly good. I had no idea that EA had it in them to make a game that wasn't just microtransactions and crap. But it's definitely a game worth playing. Let's see. Well, I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to continue working on my book reviews. For the month of December, it's going to be nothing but Star Wars books. The book reviews for December will be Darth Bane, Path of Destruction. Everybody's been waiting for that one. I've started rereading it, and I've got to say, it's still just as good as when I first read it. I mean, Darth Bane, Path of Destruction is basically a dark echo of Luke Skywalker's hero's journey. Because Darth Bane, or Dessel, as he is known before he becomes Darth Bane, starts out as, an unassuming miner on a crap hole planet. And then he, grows to be this powerful Sith master. And I wonder if Lucas, or the guy who wrote the novel, whose name I can't remember at the moment, if he planned that. If he wanted to create this dark reflection of Luke Skywalker's journey. And if he did, that's pretty bloody cool, because Luke Skywalker can be seen as a villain. If you're an Imperial, he's the bad guy. He blew up the Death Star, killed over 1 million people, and he shoots up, Imperial pilots all the time. And also, if you're an Imperial, well, you've been told all your life that Jedi are bad, that they tried to take over the Republic. So you wouldn't know that Luke was a good guy. And Darth Bane, well, the Republic didn't help him. The Republic didn't care about him. So he's trying to fix his lot in life. He doesn't care that the Republic says they're good. And so there you go. It's kind of interesting also how early in the novel, at least the part I'm at now, he still feels bad about killing people. He doesn't like it. He doesn't think of himself as cruel or anything yet, because he hasn't fully given in to his dark impulses. It's really much more of a deep novel than you would think you'd get from Star Wars. It's a book that I'm going to mention this in a review, that I actually pre-ordered before it came out, and I have it in hardback. And I really miss those days when I could pre-order books because I was so excited about them. These days there's just not that many good releases. I mentioned this in other vlogs, but it's still the case. I've tried many new books that just don't really stack up to what I've read in the past. In addition to Darth Bane, we're going to be taking a look at Republic Commando Book 1. I'm going to be taking a look at Rogue Squadron Book 1. And last, but certainly not least, we're going to be taking a look at I, Jedi. One of my favorite Star Wars books. In fact, it is tied with Back to War for my single favorite Star Wars book. That book is basically Jedi Batman. And I will be covering that in more detail when I get to the review. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, 2019 is on its way out, but it's been a pretty good year. And I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good Jedi Fallen Order and good Mandalorian, whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.